Welcome to week 5 of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us is Coach Bill Neese, and here we are. We're marking almost the halfway part of the football season. Big win for the Indians. Before we get into week 5, let's go back and talk about week 4. Big win for the Indians over West Carrollton, 66-6, and great win in 63-6. A great win in a lot of different ways. We can break down the game, but after what we've experienced the last 2 weeks, just to get a W, you could tell there was a good aura of good feelings on the sideline after the game. Certainly nice to have that when you come back home.
I think it was. I think one of the biggest things we wanted to do was get back on track. We had seemed like we were backpedaling a little bit, and square one was to stop the backpedal. Then square 2 was to take a step forward. Thought we were able to do that. I thought that that our offense especially gained some identity. I thought we came out and we found some things that we want to do. I think we see the direction we're going to go. In some of the things offensively. I thought defensively we played well. We had a couple starters out, and we were able to sub those guys in. And I thought those two, Craig Hemmert played a great game at linebacker. And also we had James Congdon play a great game at linebacker. So we had 2 young guys come in, end up and had about 14 tackles between them. And Congo, of course, had an interception return for a touchdown. So it was a big night for those guys. So I think overall it was a good experience for everybody, coming off 2 road losses to come home, win, and be able to do it in a convincing fashion.
Well, certainly offensively, people like to talk about when you put a lot of points on the board, what that was like. But we can talk about that here in a little bit. But let's talk about the defense, because we really did look sharp. You talked about 2 guys in particular that had a lot of tackles between the 2 of them. But overall, defensively, we just it was just a good group effort. Got some interceptions, some guys that got some touches on the ball that maybe not normally would have.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the nice statistics about this game is our secondary, our 3 guys in the secondary only had 4 tackles. And when your secondary, when the back end's only tackling 4 times, then obviously the front end big seniors were fantastic up front. And we're able to also get some depth. That this is the first game we've been able to rotate some defensive linemen, so we actually played 6 of those guys in 4 positions. Used our 3-man package sometimes. So we were able to. It's nice to play a game. It's the first time we've been able to do it since game 1, where we can rotate different people in with our different packages. And I think that's important as the season progresses, that we're able to do just more than one of our looks. That we're able to do our stack package and also our 50 package.
Offensively, on the offensive side of the ball, what we didn't talk about at the last coach's show is we had a concussion with our quarterback, and that's a tough position to throw in. But Mick Karn did a nice job coming in on short notice and was a playmaker in a lot of different ways.
Oh, he did. He's a playmaker, and we lost him on defense. We gained him on offense. He's also our punter. That's a lot to do for a guy. But I think, one of the big things, the big story of the game, I think, was our offensive line. We ended up and had 15 knockdown blocks, which is the most we've ever had in a football game. Oh, wow. Of our line. We had 1 lineman, Anthony Grunkemeyer, had 7 by himself. And that means those guys are sticking with blocks. And hopefully now, because we came into the season and really thought our offensive line was going to be one of our strengths. And we have now gelled it up. You lose Darian, you got to change gears a little bit on how you're blocking the different types of schemes. And I think we've got some schemes now that's going to fit those offensive linemen.
Well, the goal certainly was coming out of Friday night was to get a win, get some mojo back. I happened to be down on the sidelines when those guys at the end of the 3rd quarter we made that transition from our starters into our second team. We went out there, our second group, and you could just tell. You talk about Grunkemeyer and Cox and those schmeezing. There was a truly good feeling of, hey, D. Cole, hey, we really felt like we were. We got it done tonight.
And we have to continue that out. And the other thing that's been haunting us is our special teams. Our special teams, it's an interesting number. Our special teams, the first 3 games, we keep track of points on special teams. In our first 3 games, we lost the special teams battle 6-16. In other words, we only scored 6 points off our special teams. The opponents have scored 16 points off the special teams with returns and et cetera. The coincidental point is this Friday night, we outscored West Carrollton 16-6. So we were able to flip that number in one game. And it would have been a great 16-0 if we hadn't had that kickoff return. But we were able to return a punt. We had a punt blocked that turned into a touchdown. We had an extra point blocked, and then we went 8 for 8, 9 for 9 on our extra points. We went 9 for 9 on our extra point snaps, which I think all bode well. Mechanically, I think we made some progress.
Well, certainly now we move into the next game. As you talk about, we want to keep that momentum moving. 2-2, going on the road, back on the road for the next 2 games.
Yeah.
First stop will be at Xenia, which records can be very deceiving, and this record I think is very deceiving because they are a very good and very athletic team.
Yeah.
They did fall to Sydney last week. We certainly can't look at the record and think, oh, this is going to be a win for the Indians, because they're going to be fired up. It's homecoming for them. I'm sure they're trying to get themselves back on track, as we were talking about for us. So we've got to go in there and keep that momentum for us.
Oh, you got to. And when you look at the Xenia guys on film, it's a great football team. They've probably played the toughest 5 weeks to start a season that you could think of. I mean, they're playing Dayton Alder. Last year they played Moeller. So they go out and play some people. And they're ready, they're going to be ready to roll. And what a coaching staff. Bob DeLong's, has been there for a while, and we've played against him when he was at Tecumseh. They got Mike Snyder Sr. over there, working that offense. Coach Bartley is, that scheme guy.
Veteran staff.
Yeah, you sit there and look at those special teams, and he does one thing after another that causes you to prepare. So that's a great group, and also they have some other assistant coaches that are also outstanding. That, plus they've got some great individuals. They've got a guy that's had 3 return scores, a wide receiver that's returned 3 punts for touchdowns. So that's something you have to be concerned about. And defensively, they give us some points, but I think defensively they're probably a little underrated than what people think.
What are some things that we can expect to see from them defensively?
Well, defensively, they run a defense similar than ours. It's our stack package that we run quite a bit, and they do a lot of looping, a lot of gaming. They'll play some combo coverages in the back end of it, and they just go after you. They come after you and they run to the football. The thing about their defense is they don't have very many guys in the 50, 60, and 70 numbers, which means there's a lot of people that are out there can run.
Offensively, what offense we can expect to see from them?
Offensively, they're going to run a spread, and has a lot of the Mike Snyder roots, and they'll get the ball. They like to really work the boundary side, little combo routes on a boundary side. They got a great running back. Their running back right now has more yards after the 4th game than he had all last year. He was their starting running back last year, so he surpassed his. I think he had 298 last year, and he's already surpassed that this year. And so he's great on the zone scheme, and they mix run and pass in. They're about even on the run and pass, but they really like to go to that number 1, the receiver, and work that combo with number 1 and number 11 on that backside. So we've got to give those guys a lot of attention back there.
Well, certainly one thing we've talked about this game earlier in the year in our preseason. This was a game or a team that we scrimmaged the last several years, and it's been a very competitive scrimmage. And I remember that running back last year. In our scrimmage, he was pretty good and pretty athletic. So yeah. I would anticipate this game to. We know we're no strangers to one another.
No, there's no strangers. We can look at the film from the last 2-3 years and see what's going on. They can look at the film for the last 2 or 3 years. A lot of this is going to be a little, a player's game. There's going to be some, who's got some players that can make some plays, who's got some players that can stop somebody from making some plays, and I think that's what's going to be. And twist in a little bit of the coaching plot with. Who's going to scheme up something a little bit better that might give their kids the edge.
When we talk about, we're at home, on the road for 2 weeks, and then we come back home for a game, and then now we're back on the road for 2 weeks. As a coach, how do you make your practices? Do you change your weekend? How do you try to keep those guys, prepared for those road games at the same point in time, trying to keep just a sense of normalcy for everything?
Well, for us, it's not really that huge of a difference, except for on Fridays. You got a little less. You're a little bit more hurried on Fridays. You get out of school. We got a bus that leaves at 4 o'clock. this bus is going to go down and leave at 4 o'clock for Xenia. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is just the rush of it. It's good in a way because you don't sit around and think about it, but I kind of prefer to be able to, get a little bit of time to, relax, go grab a sandwich and not just be hurried. So you got to plan ahead. Biggest thing we got to do on Thursday is make sure we're planning ahead. We got everything packed. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be. Everybody's got their equipment. Nobody forgets anything, that kind of stuff.
It's really a big night for the Indians as we will close out the crossover season before we get into divisional play, and will mark the halfway point of the regular season. We talk about a lot of guys who just have been a big impact on our program. We've got a number of seniors that do that. One person in particular we talk about is Dylan Cole, better known as D. Cole in the locker room. How has D. Cole, have you seen him progress? And obviously he had an outstanding season last year where he was all conference, and he's continuing that same type of season going into just halfway through the senior year. What's he mean to the program?
Oh, he means a ton to the program. He's, well, first of all, he's the first guy that wasn't named Neese that's playing safety in, I think 7 years now. So we've entrusted him in a pretty good spot right there, and I think he has embraced that. I think he loves, just like our really great safeties have loved being back there and directing traffic. When you first start doing it, it's too much. You're saying, I don't want this much responsibility. And then when you really grow into it and you become a true safety, you're the guy that just relishes it. You love it. You like Mondays when we have formation check on Monday, and we'll throw every formation we can. We have 2 different groups throwing formations at our safety, our defense, and our safety's got to get us lined up in the right spot. And it's usually pretty hectic for our safety. They very rarely go unscathed on a Monday. I know, when I talked to Tyler Haynes, the coach at Urbana, he was our safety, and he still claims that he defeated me on Mondays, in the mental process, and I don't remember that. But, we got, our safeties come in and do that kind of stuff, and Dylan has just embraced it. He loves it, and so far, he had a great night tonight. Out there, we ran 3 different defenses, and he was able to get us in the right spot every single time.
Dylan, there's a couple things that stick out about him in my conversation with him. First of all, just having a conversation. He's very engaging, he's very social, and he's very good at talking to people that may not know anything about football or about him, but you'll walk away within 2 minutes and think you're best friends. Yeah. He just has that kind of a aura about people. But the other thing I think about with him is he and I had a conversation back in the preseason that, junior high, he wasn't highly successful. I mean, he was a good football player, but he wasn't one of those that was outstanding or was a superstar. Mm-hmm. He kind of, and I'll use your words, grew into the role. Yeah. He said, Chip, if I would have said in junior high I was going to be a first-team all-conference my junior year in high school, I would have rolled my eyes. There's no way. But it's happened because of hard work, dedication, and commitment. And he says another thing that's been helpful is the kind of guys he hung out with. They were assertive, they were aggressive, and they were just they had high expectations.
Yeah, he's that guy. He was able to go from a quiet, nickel. Sophomore, he was a quiet nickel defensive back that we put in on some occasions, and he was just happy to be in. He'd just come in and smile and say, it's good to be here. To last year, where he went back and forth between safety and corner, depending on what defense we're in, to this year, where it's my defense. This is where we line up. This is where we go, and I'm going to be the first one up there to hit somebody. So he's a very aggressive. He plays an aggressive safety. And it's great to see him be able to flourish this year. Well, certainly we'll look forward to talking to D. Cole here. Coach, thanks for being with us on the first half of the show. We'll look forward to Xenia when we go and take on a team that we scrimmaged, but hope to keep that mojo going.
Sounds good.
We'll be back for the second half of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. We're going to speak to D. Cole when we come back. Welcome to the second half of the Bill Neese Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Herron. With us is senior outside linebacker / safety, Dylan Cole, better known as D. Cole, here in the locker room of the Indian Nation. And Dylan, welcome to the Bill Neese Coaches Show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, Dylan, you are a very personable guy. When we have conversations, you know, you're very engaging with people. You really are just, and I guess an extrovert would be a good way to say it, but you just enjoy being around people.
Yeah, I love getting out there, you know. I play with heart and stuff like that, you know.
You've had a great career here at Piqua here, and last year coming off a first-team all-conference season, and then, of course, you're just having another outstanding year thus far. What's it been like to be a part of Piqua football, and what has it meant to you to be a part of a program that has been so successful and probably impactful for you, not just on a football level, but a personal level?
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, playing for Piqua, it's just, I mean, you don't get any other feeling like it. It's like playing for a college. I mean, my dad always jokes around. He says, Coach Neese is like the Nick Saban of high school football. It's funny. It's awesome. I mean, you get that experience too. It's crazy. They really take it serious here, and I love it.
Well, you talk about the seriousness. We talk often here, and Coach talks about that commitment. It's just not from August to November.
Yeah.
It's all year round. What's that like to know that, hey, you've got to spend 11 months out of your life a year working on football, and is it worth it?
It is worth it at the end. I mean, you just got to stay committed. I mean, and I think he does that too for one of the facts. I mean, just brotherhood. I mean, once you're up there all the time, the same people every day, you're seeing them, you're yelling at them, you're getting at them, and it's just, you guys just form a brotherhood like no other. It's crazy.
I want to rewind because you and I have actually had a personal conversation about junior high football. And, you know, a lot of kids who have had success, you know, let's use Darian as an example, were very good at junior high. That was not the case for you.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying you weren't good,
Yeah.
but you know that you really kind of broke out of your shell right after junior high. You weren't you said I wasn't really aggressive. I wasn't someone that was looking to, you know, hit people or even just play with an aggressive mentality. That didn't happen until I really got into high school. Talk a little bit about that.
I mean, it's awesome because, I mean, you talk about Darian, and then, like, it's awesome to have this kind of guys because he's the one that pushes me. Because I wanted to be just like him. I want to hit harder. I want to play up to his standards. And so when you have this kind of guys in your locker room every day, it's crazy. I mean, you just want to play as good as you can for them and for your team.
How has it been for you, you know, as a fellow teammate and a fellow classmate of Darian, to watch Darian? I'm sure it's been very hard to see that he's hurt, he's injured, and you know, obviously he's had a good attitude about the whole
He's a
thing.
strong kid.
From your perspective, you know, how's that been to watch for you?
I mean, it hurts because I love the guy. Dude, he's awesome. I mean, he shows up and gives 110% no matter where you're at, no matter how it is. I mean, no matter the situation, he's just going to go and he's going to grind. And then seeing that all happen, it just hurts. It really does. So I'm just going to go out, and we're all trying to play for him this season and just give it our all.
Good reflection of your character, Dylan. I think I can speak for myself and the Indian Nation and the people out in the community. We enjoy watching you play. You're going to be graduating here at the end of the 2017. This is obviously your senior year. Well, what's in line for D. Cole, and where are we going to be a year from now, maybe?
I'd like to get something for football, but I mean, if I don't, it's not like, oh wow, I didn't get anything. I mean, if nothing happens, I want to major in business at Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. So we got a game plan. So
Yeah.
we're looking at either UC in football or UC in business, or maybe an opportunity to play college football somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Any schools pop into mind?
I
You've
mean,
been looking at or been looking at you?
Ashland's been sending me some game stuff and here and there, and then Baldwin Wallace. There's a bunch of different schools. I mean, D2, D3 too.
Good. We are just marking in the halfway part of the season. We are getting ready to take on Xenia, and here we're 2-2 going into our last crossover game before we get into our division part of the schedule. What's the goals at this point in time? Obviously, this team's had a lot to deal with in the first 4 games. We've had injuries, you know, we've had a couple losses, but we've also had some positives. Big wins at home over Meadowdale and West Carrollton, and you're starting to see some of the younger guys starting to come through and really make some real ends and some real impacts on our team and our program.
Well, I think for maybe like week 2, week 3, we let up on the gas pedal a little bit, just because we had new guys coming in, rotating in. I mean, then just with this last game, we were full go, and then we just got to stay full go for the rest of the season. I mean, we got young guys stepping in, and that's a great thing because then that adds depth. It's awesome.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to the rest of this season, when it brings, and certainly wish you all the best, and look forward to watching you. You're, as you can see, he's a pretty personable guy, and we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule being with us.
I appreciate it.
All right, D. Cole. For D. Cole, I am Chip Hare, your host. Just remember, on Friday night, we go to Xenia, where the Indians will take on GWOC opponent, the Musketeers of Xenia. 7 o'clock kickoff time. 2-2 Indians travel to Xenia. Should be a good one. Get your tickets in advance. You can either get them at Piqua High School, where you can get them for $6 and $4, $6 for adults, $4 for students, or you can go to Toma Jewelers downtown. For D. Cole, I'm Chip Hare. We'll see you next week on the Bell News Coaches Show.